Hello, BookTube. This is Aaron from Aaron Read a Book or Aaron Read a Book, doing Friday reads. Um, let's get straight into the books. I'm going to talk about three books I've read and some books I'm reading at the moment. For a change, I want to go backwards from the oldest book I've read to the newest. So the oldest book I read is The Beautiful Visit by Elizabeth Jane Howard. This book is Elizabeth Jane Howard's first book that she wrote. And I'm sure if you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that last year I read all 5 of her books in the Cazalet Chronicles. Although I saw another booktuber say Caslay, and I think that's probably correct. But I'm going to continue to call them Cazalet because I'm from Essex and I can't pronounce French names. And the Cazalet Chronicles is like a big family saga that's set between World War One and World War Two, into World War Two and after World War Two, over the 5 books, and you follow a massive bunch of characters that are based, sort of roughly based on her own upbringing family. This was her first and the last Cazalet Chronicle book she wrote just before she died. Which was around, it was in the 2000s at some point. This book was written in 1950, I believe, or very early in the 50s. And she was like 26, 27 when she wrote this. And she just got married and was in kind of an unhappy marriage. And you can kind of tell from the plot that she wasn't finding marriage to be all it was cracked up to be. But because this is her first book, it's also kind of based on her real life to some extent. So there is quite a lot of similarities with the Cazalet Chronicles, and this is kind of like a sort of a draft of the Cazalet Chronicle. It's about a young girl who is kind of middle class, but in a poor middle class upbringing. Her father's a composer and not very successful or good composer, and she is sent one Christmas to go stay with a relative of her mother who comes from a kind of better class. And this is the bit that's kind of based on Elizabeth Jane Howard's real life, where she did live in the country in this big house with lots of people, lots of family members. So the young girl in the novel is sent to basically live with Howard's real family in the country, and it kind of changes her life. This visit, it's just this one is set just before and after World War One, so a bit before Cazalet Chronicles, and she's kind of introduced to a much more happy life in the country with this family. And then after this, so it makes her very unhappy with her home life. She feels like she's got no purpose. And after this, she goes, and there's a weird interlude at this point where it's kind of Great Expectations, and she goes and stays with an old lady who is very odd, and it kind of doesn't really fit in the novel, but you can tell Howard's experimenting. And then later in the novel, she goes back to, after World War One, she goes back to the family, big family home. So it's set around visits to a big family home, which is like the Cazalet Chronicles. It has the same incredible characterization that she sort of later perfected in the Cazalet Chronicles, and it also has a beautiful writing. Like, she, even though she's 26, 27 when she wrote this, it's beautifully written, and it's kind of very post World War II book about being middle class and not really having any purpose in life. Like, her parents don't want her to have a job, but she has nothing to do. Like, she has no husband, and she's kind of stuck in this rut where you're poor, but your class prevents you from having a job because it's looked down upon by her parents. And she also is sort of smart, and she has these romances. One in particular is very beautifully done romance, and the others are there's lots of people sort of who want to marry her, but she just doesn't feel anything for them. It's a little aimless at times, but it's beautifully written in Howard's style, and I mean, it's a book about essentially ennui, so it's quite hard to summarize, but it does have the little bits of Caslett Chronicles magic that I love. So I definitely recommend it. It's a really good book, but I would start with the Caslett Chronicles still. I also bought the next two novels that Elizabeth Jane Howard wrote, which are The Long View, which I think is basically her most successful novel before the Caslett Chronicles, and the next one after that, The Sea Change. I love these covers, these old covers. I think I've got about half of her novels now, or maybe most of them. So I want to make my way through them. Sean from Sean Reed's Breves Books has been going through them from the first novel, so he's probably read those ones already, but he's been loving them, and I'm looking forward to him getting to the Caslett Chronicles. The book I read after that, I'm not going to talk too much about because it's book 3 in a series, which was Anne of the Island, which is the third book in the Anne of Green Gables series, and this is MoreMontgomery November, which is a little event on BookTube. Last November I read the second Anne book, and this November I'm reading the third. I can't remember how much I liked Anne of the Island, but I really liked this one, and not quite as much as Anne of Green Gables itself, but it was interesting. It's basically Anne is now at college age, so the book is half set on Prince Edward Island and half set at college in, I can't remember where the place is called, Kingsport, I think. So she's at college half the time and then visiting home the other half the time. This is kind of also it's her education, and she's met some new friends, and she lives in this lovely house at college, and she's also dealing with romances. So this is the kind of the will she won't she kind of book where she has romances, and there's also the romances that existed in the first two books that you're not sure how it's going to resolve itself. So that was interesting. I also found this one, I think I remember the second one being a bit saccharine, and this one I thought the writing balanced better. I felt like Montgomery does use lots of flowery language, but it was the perfect amount for this one, and I just really enjoyed it. I have a feeling people don't like the Anne books as much after this one, so it'd be interesting to see how they go, but I really enjoyed this one. And yeah, if you like Anne of Green Gables and haven't read the following books, I do recommend the next two. They were really good. And the third book I'm going to talk about that I've read is an unusual one for me because it's the winner of the Booker Prize, and I genuinely find the Booker Prize to be a magnet for terrible reading experiences. They're normally, whenever I read a book on the Booker long list or short list, they're always just utter tedium. Then and I was a bit wary about this Orbital by Samantha Harvey because it is a writing experiment. It's not really a novel. It's short though, so, and I actually enjoyed it much more than I thought I would because of that. Because I'm not really an experimental or modernist reader. I like having characters that I'm want to learn about, and I like having a plot plot's less important than characters to me. But this novel doesn't really have plot or characters. It nods its cap at characters every now and then, just to keep you invested. But generally, it's just an experimental writing piece about these 6 astronauts orbiting the world on what is the International Space Station. It's never mentioned, but it basically is an International Space Station. And it's their thoughts as they pass over the world and they see things. The only kind of plot point is there is a typhoon on the Earth, and sometimes it talks about the astronauts' connections on Earth and stuff that's happened to them. But really, it's a vehicle to talk about the Earth, and it's basically a philosophy. I was impressed by how accurate Harvey was in this, though. The little details of life on the International Space Station very much reminded me of this book I read a couple of months ago, which is Scott Kelly's Endurance, about his year on the International Space Station. And she must have read this book, because there's little things in Orbital that are exactly from this. Like, they're things that Scott Kelly talks about, just about life on the space station. And yes, I really appreciated that, and I do think she's a good writer, Samantha Harvey. I like her writing. It's not amazing. It's not like Marilyn Robinson, but she's got a very nice philosophical way of writing. So I think if you like that kind of thing, if you're more into modernism and experimental writing, I think you'd really like it. I think the fact that I gave it 3 stars means it's 5-star book for a lot of people, and maybe a 0-star book for other people. I saw in the Guardian newspaper that this has sold at least double every other Booker Prize winner for the last 10 years in its first week since it had been announced. And that surprises me, and I can only imagine it's because it's very short. And I got it for £1 like months ago when I saw there was a space novel on the Booker Prize shortlist. I just thought, that's 99p, I'll give it a go. But yeah, very surprised. It also has a lovely cover, so maybe that's partially why. But it's interesting. If you've got any thoughts of why it's selling so well, let me know down in the comments. But I do imagine, like I said, people are Booker Prize winners generally, they'd be prepared for this sort of novel. But I can't imagine a sort of general reader being that into it, because it is more experimental. But yeah, it was interesting and short, so it didn't overstay its welcome, which was good. But yeah, so if you've read Orbital, let me know what you think about it. But yeah, very unusual for me to read a book that's just won the Booker Prize, or even a book that was published in the last 10 years. What am I reading at the moment? We'll go quickly through it. I'm reading the second book in Terry Pratchett's Witcher series, Weird Sisters. I'm nearly finished this, but I'll talk about it next week. It's very Shakespearean. I think Pratchett's main influence is Shakespeare generally. All his books are very Shakespearean, but this one especially, it's about 3 witches. It's about a travelling troupe of actors, and basically there's a little dwarf that is based on William Shakespeare. They're building a big building called the Disc instead of the Globe, which is very clever. It's a lot of Macbeth and stuff in here, but yeah, very much enjoying it so far. It's already Pratchett in full swing. Also bought Witches Abroad, the 3rd book in the Witcher series, so hopefully I'll get this one done this year as well. I'm buddy reading 2 books as well. I'm buddy reading To Your Scattered Bodies Go, by Philip Jose Farmer, with Gavin from Genre Reads, and we're nearly finished with this now. But this has been a fun little body read because it's quite 70s bonkers sci-fi about what happens after you die. It's about this place they all go after they die, and it's very weird. Lots of weird 70s stuff in there, but fun. And I am reading the second book in Amanda Scott's Boudica series, Dreaming the Ball, with Sarah from Your True Shelf, and we're both very happy to be back in this world because the first book is definitely one of the highlights of the year for me, and Amanda Scott's writing is incredible. So very much loving this series, and yeah, enjoying that. Yeah, so that's. I'm also nearly finished with Killing Thatcher, which is the book, the audio book I'm listening to about an assassination attempt on Margaret Thatcher. So that's very interesting as well. Yeah, so that's just quite a quick little Friday reads for me. So let me know if you've ever read The Beautiful Visit. I doubt a lot of people have, but it's my mission on BookTube to get more people to read Elizabeth Jane Howard, especially the Catholic Chronicles. Let me know if you've read Anne of the Island. Does the series go downhill from here, or am I imagining that? Maybe it's just one Goodreads review I saw. Have you read Orbital, the Booker Prize winner? Also noticed Orbital was getting review bombed on Goodreads, and I couldn't leave a review at first because I think it's Ukrainians leaving reviews, one-star reviews, saying this is supporting Russia, which is absolutely insane. By the way, there's a Russian character in it, yes, but all 6 characters are from different nationalities, and the space program is the one thing that where all these nations come together and work together for the betterment of humanity. It's a net good. It's all good, the space program. And I would point out that America doesn't have a space shuttle program at the moment. I think it's moving towards privatization. I think maybe some SpaceX stuff has gone to the ISS now. I'm not sure, but when Scott Kelly went up, everyone had to go through the Soyuz program. So Russians let America use their shuttles up to the space station. It's a combined world effort. It's a good thing. So don't review bomb it and say it's. I mean, you could tell why Ukrainians would be angry about Russia, but this is one thing you can't blame them for. This is not Putin. This is a world thing. So that was just a shame, but I think they've stopped it now. But yeah, if you've read Orbital, let me know. And yeah, have a good one, BookTube. Bye.